It was one of those cold mornings that made your bones ache before the day even began. The sky was a blanket of gray, the kind that made hope feel like a distant memory. James Carter pulled into the driveway of a modest house tucked into the edge of a quiet neighborhood. His old pickup truck wheezed to a stop, coughing out a cloud of smoke. The check engine light had been on for weeks, but fixing it wasn't in the cards right now, not when groceries and gas were already a tight squeeze. In the back seat, his 6-year-old daughter, Lily, peeked out from under a thick blanket. She was bundled up in her worn pink jacket, her small face pale but always curious. "Are you gonna lift boxes again today, Daddy?" she asked sleepily, clutching her stuffed bunny. "Yeah, sweetheart. Shouldn't take long," James replied, mustering a smile. "After this, we'll get you that pancake you like, okay?" Lily grinned faintly and nodded. She didn't complain. She never did. Not even when dinner was just toast, or when they had to sleep in the truck one night after rent fell through. James stepped out into the cold, stretching his stiff muscles. Every odd job counted: furniture moves, junk removal, small deliveries. Today was supposed to be a quick-moving gig booked through an app. The address didn't list many details. Just, help moving a few boxes. When he knocked, the door opened almost immediately. A woman in her early 60s stood there. Her hair was streaked with silver, her eyes soft but intense. She looked at James like she already knew him. "I've been waiting for you," she said simply. James hesitated. "I'm James, from Hull now. You posted about moving boxes?" She smiled and stepped aside. "Yes. Come in." The house was warm, but not in the sense of temperature. It felt lived in, safe. Walls lined with family photos, a faint smell of cinnamon and fresh coffee in the air. Not a single moving box in sight. James furrowed his brow. "I'm sorry. But I don't see any boxes." The woman gestured toward the living room and motioned for him to sit. "I know this might be confusing," she began. "But I didn't ask for help moving anything." "Not really. I signed up for the app just to find someone like you." James looked skeptical but sat down. He was too tired to argue, too curious to leave. "I lost my son 2 years ago," she continued, picking up a framed photo of a young man in military uniform. "He was all I had. A kind, gentle boy. The kind who always stood up for others. He promised he'd come back and take care of me after his last deployment. But he never made it home." James lowered his eyes. He knew loss. He didn't talk about it much, but he felt it every day. "I'm so sorry," he said quietly. She nodded, eyes glistening. "After he died, I lost a sense of purpose. Every day felt the same. Until one afternoon, I came across your profile on the app. You'd helped a friend of mine move a couch. She mentioned your daughter. Said you brought her along, and how you were so kind despite looking absolutely exhausted." James blinked. "Your friend?" She nodded. "Susan. 2 towns over. She told me about how you apologized for taking a little longer because you had to stop for your daughter's asthma medication. Said you were one of the most decent people she'd met." James had almost forgotten about that job. He had just kept his head down and worked. "So I created a job request," she said, "not because I needed someone to move things, but because I needed to meet you." He looked at her, unsure of how to respond. "But, why?" She stood, walked into the other room, and returned with a white envelope. "Because people like you, hardworking, honest, doing everything for their children, you shouldn't feel like the world forgot you." James opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a cashier's check for $5,000. His breath caught. "Ma'am, I can't accept this." "Yes, you can," she replied gently. "This is me honoring my son. He always helped people when he could. This would have been what he wanted." James felt his throat tighten, a storm of gratitude, disbelief, and overwhelming emotion building in his chest. "I'm just doing my best," he whispered. "Some days I feel like I'm failing her." The woman reached across the table and touched his hand. "You're not failing. You're showing her strength, love, and courage. That's more than enough." At that moment, the door creaked open and Lily stepped inside, her blanket trailing behind her. The woman's face lit up. "Is this Lily?" Lily nodded shyly, clutching her bunny. "Well," the woman said warmly, "I was just about to bake some cookies. Would you like to help?" Lily's eyes brightened. "Can we, Daddy?" James, still holding the envelope, nodded slowly. Yeah, we can." 2 hours later, they left the house with full bellies, a tin of cookies, and something far more valuable, a renewed sense of hope. James looked at the rearview mirror as Lily sang to herself in the back seat. "Daddy," she asked suddenly, "was that lady an angel?" James smiled, his voice quiet and thick with emotion. "Maybe, sweetheart. Maybe she was. Sometimes the people we least expect carry the greatest burdens. And sometimes, in the most ordinary moments, we're reminded that kindness, real, quiet, intentional kindness, still exists. In a world full of struggles and chaos, there are still people who look at a stranger and say, 'I've been waiting for you,' simply because they're ready to give, to help, and to heal. Because even when life feels like it's falling apart, you might just be the answer to someone's prayer, or they might be the answer to yours. And sometimes, that's all we need."